Hey you guys, happy Video Monday. This is Tisha Mahar, and today we are going to be discussing a very important hormone. A hormone that it's possible you may never have even heard of before, and a hormone that you want to know about, especially if you are having issues relating to your weight or managing your weight or losing weight, or especially if you're having an issue with appetite regulation. So the hormone that we are shining a spotlight on today is leptin. Now, leptin essentially helps us understand why it is that we are hungry or why it is that we are full. And if this hormone becomes dysregulated, the signaling to the brain becomes confused, and then our behaviors as a result may become kind of erratic. So basically, leptin, now this is what's confusing about this topic. Leptin can become dysregulated in two very different sets of the population. It becomes dysregulated often in the super low body weight people and in the obese population. So people who lose a lot of weight or who lose a lot of weight quickly or who are constantly crash dieting or calorie restricting or over exercising, these people can have issues with leptin becoming too low. And as a result, the body thinks it's starving and sends signal to eat and eat and eat and eat. So if leptin becomes too low, the body will obviously respond to protect you. So this is what's so amazing about our bodies. If we start to get too thin, we become hungry so that we eat and gain weight. And this is why when people go on these restrictive crash diets, they often backfire and they often cause weight gain. They go on these crazy diets, the metabolism slows down, leptin levels plummet, and then you eat and you gain the weight back and you gain extra because your metabolism is at a lower set point. So crash dieting doesn't work, and this is why. It's because of leptin. This is also seen often in people who do competitions like bikini preparation competitions and diets. These people are on restrictive diets for a long time, and leptin becomes lower and lower and lower and lower, and then these people often struggle with binge eating after they reach their goal, or sometimes they can't even quite get there, and this becomes an issue. So we want to avoid this, obviously. So low levels of leptin from crash dieting, from calorie restricting, from over exercising, all of these things can cause low leptin. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have really high levels of leptin, and this also causes appetite dysregulation. So we don't want to have really low, we don't want to have really high, we're looking for a sweet spot. So super high levels of leptin also cause this problem, but through a different mechanism. So with high levels of leptin, the signal isn't getting to the brain. Levels are high, but the brain isn't receiving the memo, essentially. So what happens in the high levels of leptin, the obese people, is these people are overeating all the time. So they're overeating, and they're often also overeating on processed foods and sugary foods, foods that innately disrupt the cue to the brain that says we're full or that says we're hungry. We've been talking about this actually in the group the last couple days, my group, TESHIA'S group, about how processed foods essentially hijack the brain. They confuse things. They're so full of appetite-stimulating chemicals that we eat them and we feel hungrier. Then we're probably not even hungry, but we're stimulated because of them. So a similar thing happens here. These people are choosing the sugar and the processed foods It's causing this appetite stimulation. It's making them overeat, and so the signals aren't reaching the brain properly. Same way with the deprivation. So overeating and depriving will cause the same thing in a different way. Hopefully that is making sense. It's very confusing. So we need to get back to eating when we're hungry, stopping when we're full. How we do that is by eating whole foods from nature in a balanced combination. I know it's not always the sexiest diet, but it's the one that works, especially long term, and especially if we want to avoid all of these problems with our health. So those two things being mentioned, so the chronic undereating, the overeating and binging on junk foods, there are a few other ways that sometimes leptin can become dysregulated. And these things are cited in research to be skipping breakfast. Now, I don't necessarily think that this is a problem necessarily. There's an exception sometimes. A lot of people thrive on intermittent fasting protocols, so they're skipping breakfast, and because of it, they are feeling more satisfied, more full than ever. But that's not always the case. Some people are sensitive to fasting, and they, as a result, could have issues with leptin. So if you aren't a crash dieter and you're not a binge eater, overeater, and you're having this problem, and you also have been somebody who has skipped breakfast for maybe like 10 years or something, this may be relevant to you. Again, it may not be relevant, okay? So just something to consider. Sometimes breakfast skipping can cause this. And if that is the case, a good idea for helping to regulate leptin in this scenario is to eat a breakfast that is really rich in protein, like high protein, like 30 grams at least, and also, a good amount of healthy fat. So maybe at least a tablespoon or two of healthy fat. So you have a protein-rich, fattier breakfast, and this can help to fix this if that's why your leptin is going funny. And you would want to do this for at least 30 days. So that is one suggestion. Another reason that leptin can become dysregulated is because of poor sleep. So if you have really disrupted circadian rhythm, if you're not sleeping well, like if you're sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night, something like that, that is going to make your leptin lower, and that is going to make you hungrier. So super important to know that. Another thing is high fructose diets are often associated with low leptin. So this would be, especially eating like processed foods that are rich in corn syrup or that type of thing. Fructose is in a lot of processed foods. So again, if you're eating a lot of processed foods, this may become dysregulated. Fructose is also in fruit. So if you're eating a ton of fruit all the time and you're having issues with appetite control, I would look at that. I have personally found, I believe that fruit is a wonderful, healthful food, but I have personally seen that in a lot of my clients, it seems to make them hungrier. So women tend to do better with more protein and healthy fats. It doesn't mean you can't be vegetarian. It just means you have to be a little bit more mindful of the macronutrients that you're consuming, and make sure that you're not on a super, super low fat diet. This often doesn't work, in my experience at least, especially for women. So keep that in mind. High fructose diets. The other thing is omega-3 and omega-6 ratios. So if you aren't getting a good source of omega-3 in your diet, whether it be from fish or fish oil, or as a vegetarian or vegan, whether it be from flax or chia seeds, walnuts, these types of things. If you're not getting a good amount of omega-3 in your diet every day, this also could cause leptin to be dysfunctional. So keep that in mind too. So some tips here, guys, on what you can do. First of all, if you're crash dieting, you have to stop. You might not necessarily want to increase your calories dramatically right away, but you want to slowly start to add in more calories. If you're over-exercising all the time, you want to start to slowly lower your exercise to find a better balance. this is the only way out of this one. You can't just magically fix it with a pill. You have to take some steps and change your behaviors, okay? So stop the crash dieting, stop over restricting your calories, allow your body to find its set point or its healthy place, okay? The other side of it is if you are struggling with binging, if you are overweight, you gotta to take the steps to move to a whole foods based diet. I know that isn't easy, especially if you're addicted to sugar and to, gluten and all of this stuff. But start to move towards a whole foods based diet. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, healthy fats, and maybe, if you're not vegetarian, vegan, adding meats, healthy organic meats and eggs and all of the real foods from nature. All of these things are going to help your brain understand, again, whether it's full, whether it's hungry. So those are the main two things to look at. Again, other than that, if you feel you might have an issue with your leptin, start to prioritize your sleep. Take omega-3 on a daily basis in a supplemental form or in a food form or both. Perhaps incorporate a protein and fat rich breakfast, especially if you've been skipping breakfast forever. Eliminate processed foods and sugars, and potentially any other sources of fructose if you're taking in a lot of fructose. If you're eating, the 15 pineapples a day diet. Perhaps reconsider that if you're having an issue that you think sounds like leptin. Maybe the 15 pineapples or bananas a day diet is working for you. Great. If it's not, as Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is continuing to do something that isn't working. So if it's not working, try something else. I think that covers it. Move towards a balanced diet, whole foods, and stop the extremes, basically. So that was a lot. I hope it made sense. I know it's confusing. So this problem can happen in all different types of people for different types of reasons, but I hope that summed it up nicely for you. So have a great week, everybody, and thanks for watching. Thank you, as always, for your interest in learning from me, and I will talk to you next week or talk to you in the group. If you haven't joined my group yet, I've started a group on Facebook. It's called TESHIA'S group. I will post the link down below, and in that group I am posting every single day and also answering people's personal questions about all kinds of topics relating to nutrition, relating to exercise, and it's a really wonderful community that's budding and growing there. So join us, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, happy Monday.